What's going on, beautiful people? Welcome to another episode of From the Logo Podcast. We got Gifted, myself, Hayes in the building tonight. Gifted, man. It starts today. The conference final starts today. The Minnesota Timberwolves, OKC Thunder. It's been a wild playoffs, man. Now, we got the title topic. We got teams that are looking to kind of change the direction, things like that. I wanted to make a different title topic, but I know that you had something that you wanted to talk about with Nikola Jokic, but we can start off with.
Yeah, man. I first want to say it's been a while. A lot has happened in these playoffs. We're officially in the Western Conference Finals and the Eastern Conference Finals. All the way to your point. All the people that were foaming at the mouth to say that I knew OKC was fake, this stuff they didn't move me in the regular season, all this and that. I'm happy to see that they came out in Game 7. A really tough start, by the way, right? Like, they looked like they were rattled in that first quarter, and they remembered, oh, yeah, we are the second best net rating of all time. Mm-hmm. Every other team gets out of the second round if you're that good. Let's rise to that level, and they did that. The only thing I wanted to say in regards to Jokic is he's a very good player. I had him as my best player in the world before these playoffs. He probably still is that for me, but for being honest, in terms of his postseason expectations and how he's played, he has been stymied by a lot of different defensive coverages, and he was not up to his standard in a lot of these overall playoff series. Now, am I going to say, well, because of that, I have Giannis as my best? Not really, because in my opinion, I think Giannis played significantly worse defensive coverage for what his matchup was. But the idea that Jokic is just this flawless player, Hayes, who can do no wrong, like his offense is like the best offense ever, all this and that. Like, I think we saw in multiple series, no, he's guardable. It's just a matter of if you have the roster and the actual construction to really keep up. To be fair, we know how up and down this Denver Nuggets roster was, but we saw some chinks in the armor, at the very least, I would say.
Yeah, I mean, for sure. I think and I would say not even just against the Thunder, even in the first playoff series, like you did see how you can make Jokic think, right? And if you can make him think and kind of hesitate sometimes, it really does throw off that whole different Nuggets team. And that's not to say that like Jokic is some terrible player. He's not. Like, we know Jokic is great, and that's perfectly fine. But like, you can be great and still have flaws, and Jokic does have flaws. And I think that different Nuggets teams has some huge flaws to it as well. And you're gonna have to look at fixing that if you want to be back to a team that could legitimately make a run to the title. But especially that series against the Thunder, when they front Jokic at times and they force the ball out of his hands, there were times where even Alex Caruso was able to do it for a little bit. It does raise some questions. And I mean, I don't think you're out of the like you're crazy for saying that at all.
I just think there's the point where it felt like it was Jokic and it wasn't a conversation in terms of who else could really be there. I think at the very least he has closed the gap in a way of like who the best player. I still think it's him, but now I think the other arguments between Shea or even Giannis are at least a little bit overall closer. Now, that's not me saying in the regular season he wasn't best player. I think he was. But the idea that no one else can rise up there, to me, that should be at least open in people's brains to say, hey, maybe someone else can be better than Jokic. Maybe that is a real possibility.
Who do you see that being? Is it Shea? Is it Shea's the torch pass to Shea?
I think Shea is the next up. I still feel like we need to see like a signature playoff run from Shea all the way through and through, and this very much so could be that. I didn't like the way Shea played a lot in the Denver series, but towards the tail end of that series, I did think he rose and was really outplaying Jokic in many different ways. But now he has to put together a longer body of work in the postseason. And I think he's primed with a very good team to continue to dominate and have even more success. So I think he's there. I think Giannis show at the very least, hey, you can put a bad roster around me as much as you want. I can still dominate playoff series, which is my question. Since we haven't seen him in the offs, I feel a bit weird about Giannis though, Hayes, because it's like I expected Giannis to average 34, so he didn't do anything that I didn't think he would be able to do. I think his flaws also showed up in that series, but people aren't gonna talk about them as much because he averaged 34. But defensively, it was kind of tough, right? We saw the game winner from Halliburton and how they went at Giannis. But to be fair to Giannis, who else in that roster was really giving him anything defensively? That all year long, that defense has been bad. So I don't know how much blame I want to put on him, but I think those are the two players that's firmly in that position. Maybe Embiid, but he's not even healthy, so I can't even talk about Embiid right now.
I mean, it would be a whole different conversation if you could guarantee Embiid was going to healthy. Hell, we need to be able to guarantee he's going to be able to play 55 healthy games, right? Like so it's hard to predict that for him overall. But like, yeah, I mean, Jokic had an amazing season. Statistically, he had the best NBA season maybe ever, right? Like,
wow.
Yeah, I mean, and we'll see who gets named as the MVP. And by the way, we got to call a thing a thing. The NBA knew what the hell. They waited to the end of that series to determine the MVP. The
Nasty
MVP
work,
is
right?
not usually named this late into the playoffs. It feels like the NBA did not want to do the whole Hakeem thing. Like they didn't want to name the MVP, and then that player ends up losing that series, and then they're faced the whole conversation over that player in the playoffs is, well, should they have actually been the MVP? Like, they didn't want that conversation. That's what it felt like. And the NBA got to stop being cowards, bro. You got to stop being cowards, man.
Yeah, I thought that was weird because to me, it's like everything this league has done is they've done things in a way to engage conversation. To me, giving a player the MVP in the middle of a playoff series where he's literally playing the other guy who was also there and he loses that series, all that does is gain traction for the league. So I didn't really see why not. Also, it's like at a certain point, people are not going to care about the actual awards if you don't drop them on time. Like, just drop it. You dropped everything else. You dropped all defensive teams. You dropped Rookie of the Year. You dropped DPOI. Drop the MVP.
You dropped the all rookie teams today before the MVP.
Nasty, right?
Like
Nasty,
you look at it, it's usually the first week of May the MVP is named. Usually we're around the first week to the second week of May. We're almost through May. It's the 20th. You haven't named the MVP. The NBA is a bunch of cowards, bro. Like, it's just, it doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense. Let me ask you something about the playoffs before we get into the topics for today. So we got the conference finals. We got the Pacers versus Knicks, the Thunder versus Timberwolves. Which team do you think has yet to play their best basketball? And which, if any, teams do you think may have peaked and already played their best basketball and is going to be a struggle for them going forward?
Oh, that's a great question, man. In terms of a team that I think still has not played their best basketball, this might sound wild, but I'm leaning Oklahoma City. This is a team that, by all means, for me, underperformed to their standards greatly. They're like all year long, I was saying, like, this is a good team, but the shooting is a question. In that playoff series, the shooting was the actual question, right? Shea started to play better towards the end. I think their defense has 100% been good in all their games, but I think on both ends, just like the actual like consistent dominance, I don't think they've reached that level yet. I think they have another gear in store for these other teams. So OKC would be my pick for that. In terms of a team that might have already reached its ceiling as a team, I think that's a much harder conversation, but I think the candidates are probably between the Knicks and maybe the Wolves. I leave the Pacers out because they've been playing on fire the entire series, and I mainly feel like with them, their offensive ceiling is just so much higher than a lot of these other teams. That is what has kept them in games. And silently enough, their defense has also been good enough to really, really contest, and they have depth. The Knicks, I point to them because Jalen Brunson has been having master classes in these fourth quarters, but if we're being honest, they go down a lot in these games, and they need to have, role players hit shots and whatnot. Cat still hasn't had his best game yet, so there is some praise there for him, but I just feel like the depth is going to matter with them at some point. And again, against a super competitive Pacers team, if you only have four guys giving you real solid production, it's going to be a very long series.
Yeah, I mean, I think if I had to answer that question on a team that may have peaked already, and I hope this is not the answer, but I'm just answering based off like what I'm seeing. It may be
Yeah.
the Indiana Pacers. And the reason why I say that is throughout the playoffs so far, in just the postseason, they have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 players shooting the three ball above 45%. That's not sustainable. That's going to be
Yeah, that's
very
crazy.
hard to sustain, right? Like, and I get it. They play with pace, like to attack, but like when you have Pascal Siakam shooting 54%, I'm sorry, 57% from three, that's difficult to
Hooping.
maintain, man. Like, so it just worries me is that if that's going to maintain that level of 3-point shooting, and if it doesn't, then what is their offense going to look like, right? Is it just pace? Is it just Tyrese Halliburton at that point? That's why I'm a little bit worried about the Pacers, but that would just be my answer to the team that may have peaked so far, and then that hasn't peaked. I agree with you on the OKC Thunder. I don't think we've seen the best OKC Thunder basketball yet in this
Which is
postseason.
scary, by the way. That is terrifying to me, Hayes, honestly.
So, yeah, we shall see, man. But this has been a fun playoffs. I don't doubt that this is gonna that it's gonna stop anytime soon. Do you want to talk about predictions, man? Do you want to say who you got coming out of each conference as of right now?
For sure. Before I do that, I do want to say, like, I'm very happy that we got these conference finals because to me, regardless, a young player or at least a relatively young team is gonna have a championship. And for me, like, I'm sorry, but all of my agendas are thriving. People that were saying Tyrese Halliburton was an overrated player, he's been dominating your favorite teams and players for the entire postseason run. Now he has to play a healthier Knicks team right now. We got to see exactly how that goes. But OKC, Pacers, Knicks, right? Like these are all teams, Wolves especially, where if they win a title, it really means something to that fan base and that franchise. There's going to be a new champion for the 7th straight year in the NBA. I love that, right? So for all these guys, like this is going to really impact their legacies as they continue to make real history, which makes me feel like all of these playoff series are going to be very, very competitive. But there's only one winner, right? I got OKC. I've been very, very consistent since preseason. I just think that this team is going to be on another level. Chet got hurt, and they were still on another level. I expect Shea to also perform a little bit better than he did versus Denver, even though on paper Minnesota does have a better defense. I just think Oklahoma is going to have the pieces to really attack them. And also, I got to be honest, as much as I like the Wolves, like, yes, they absolutely dominated a non-big LA team. But what killed me repeatedly about the Wolves is they just had these moments where their decision-making is suspect. And then sometimes offensively, they just don't have it. They played against a non-Steph Curry team. And for a lot of those quarters, we're genuinely competing until they realize, yeah, they can't score, so we can score, right? So for me, I just think OKC has the bodies and the personnel to really edge them out.
And that's really the thing with OKC, man, is that they have so many different looks that they can throw at any given time. So many defenders, the waves after waves. Cason Wallace has played so good throughout these playoffs as well that I didn't necessarily expect for him to play at the level he has as consistently. So OKC is going to be a difficult team. Like they're the, of course, I think the favorites overall to run it, but don't count out the Minnesota Timberwolves either. Like the one thing that the Thunder were able to do is that because Denver only went 3 deep into their bench, they were just able to outpace them. And you could tell by the end of that series, like I said it, every game that series went on, the better it was going to play in the hands of the Thunder because just the depth. They're going consistently 5-6 players into their bench every single game, right? Like,
yeah.
But the Minnesota Timberwolves are better equipped to deal with that. I'm not saying they're amazingly equipped to deal with it, but they're better equipped, right? They go deeper into their bench, but it's still going to come down to like how many moments is Anthony Edwards amazing in the series, but then I call it like Julius Randle got to be Falcon in game. He got to be on your left a lot in this series because you're going to need
the
him.
Julius Randle, bro. Hayes, I love you for that. This is the Julius Randle series. This is what I think a lot of us have been waiting for. He's played a lot better than many people thought he would be able to. But if we're being honest, he played against a Lakers team that, to me, schematically, even though he's been one of the worst guys in the playoffs in terms of his history, that is a series that he should dominate. He did, right? You then play a smaller Warriors team. No Steph Curry. I expect him to look good. He looked good. This is a series where, okay, now we see exactly what it is. Is Alex Caruso going to be able to do what he did to Jokic to Julius Randle? I can't wait to see that, Hayes.
We shall see, man. Hopefully he can, and hopefully it helps for sure, because Julius Randle is going to have to be him and Rudy Gobert. Rudy Gobert is hugely important in this series too. Like, he was able to dominate in Game 5 against the Lakers without them having true size. You got two legit bigs on here every single game that you're facing them. I think also the lineup when the Thunder go to the 5-out lineup, how they deal with that one, and that's when Chet moves to center. That's going to be really important in the series, because really the only lineup that, at least on paper, that the Minnesota Timberwolves really have matched that is the lineup where you're basically playing Julius Randle at the 5, Naz Reid is there at the 4, and you play that out. I think as McDaniels is in that lineup as well. You're gonna have to battle that out, because if you can't deal with that lineup when they go 5 out, that's basically their death lineup in this series, and it's gonna cause them some serious problems.
Yeah, for sure, man. Like I think the most interesting part about this too is if OKC is continuing to not shoot the ball well from 3, Gobert can really live a lot in this series. And it's like the more and more that we see that impact track, also with the depth that I would say the Wolves have too. It's going to be a very fun matchup, because all regular season it was fun. So it'll be cool to see how that yin yang match goes. How do they look in the non-Gobert minutes? Because Naz Reid, all year long defensively, just has not really been a great staple of their defense. So how that holds up against a much more downhill OKC team, I want to see that. I do want to see that.
Yeah, for sure. And the lineup I was talking about, so it is Anthony Edwards, DiVincenzo, Julius Randle, Naz Reid, and Jaden McDaniels. That lineup has a net rating of plus 34.6 in their minutes in just the playoffs. It's going to be an important
Pretty
lineup.
Good.
So,
yeah,
we shall see. But with that, in the playoffs and everything coming down there are teams that are already looking to try to start changing the direction with moves this offseason. We heard Gift that the Philadelphia 76ers are open to moving the number 3 pick. But it comes with a cost. You have to take on Paul George's contract to do that. Let's start there, right? Because I think it makes sense for a team in the 76ers, if they are still convinced they want to try to compete in this window with Joel Embiid, not adding a 19, 20-year-old player, trying to get a legit star in there to pair with that. And the way that I look at it is that if you thought fully healthy that Paul George, Maxey, and Joel Embiid had the makings of a team that could make some noise in the East, it's even that much more if they can add a Kevin Durant or whoever it is. But that's a real big asking price to say take on Paul George to get number 3. He has 3 years left, over $50 million in each of those years. Do you think a team comes biting on that, Gifted?
Oh man. I think a team would, but it depends on the star that they're getting back wholeheartedly. I know people are entertaining the Phoenix thing because the money basically matches, and they're also getting a good young player back. I think the real question for them is, do you want to go from KD to a very bad contract with the 3rd pick and not really be competitive? That really becomes the question. Also, I do got to be honest, like Paul George was hurt this year and also wasn't playing well. I'm expecting his next season to be better, but we just don't know really what to expect. Like, what other stars or good teams are going to trade legitimate assets to take on that contract and have the 3rd pick? Because that sounds like a 2 timeline thing where we want to win now, but we also want this draft pick. Like, it feels hard to really make that a thing that happens, but it is possible, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, it's a possibility. I mean, I know that, the report came out that they'd be willing to do that for like Kevin Durant or anything, but I do see a team that I think would do it and not care about the Paul George aspect of it. If the 76ers wanted Lauri Markkanen, I think that Utah would do it, because I think Utah has no plan on winning anytime soon. I think they do that move in a heartbeat. What's going on, ZZ?
What's good, y'all? How are we? How we doing?
What's good, ZZ?
What are we talking about?
We're talking about the Philadelphia 76ers trying to unload that Paul George's contract, and they're dangling the number 3 overall pick.
So Philadelphia finally realized that maybe, just maybe, paying Paul George all that damn money was probably not worth it. But here we are. It is what it is.
Yeah, their AI finally came to its like right mind, like,
That's
oh,
funny.
Hey, look though, like you said though, Gifted, like you do got to take it with a grain of salt considering that he didn't play last year. Even though, look, last year for Philadelphia is probably it's probably going to turn out to be very crucial because not only do you have Paul George's injury, Joel getting hurt again, but Jarrett McCain going down as well. And my question is how much is enough for Philadelphia to really realize, look,
right.
Joel Embiid in this era and us kind of, and it's not to say that there's anything wrong with them building around Joel or choosing to build around Joel, but there's got to be a point where you're just like, enough is enough. I know for a fact that Philadelphia fans have been waiting for more than a decade now to get to the conference finals, and nothing has seemed to be enough. They have seen new waves of generational prospects, talents like Ben Simmons and James Harden, Jimmy Butler, JJ Redick, Montrezl Harrell. They've been through as many eras, and Al Horford was there, I think, a couple times. Like they've been through so much, so many different iterations of the team, so many different ways and avenues that they're trying to go down to get to a path that they just seem like they're not destined to be on. If Paul George is the end all be all that gets them to a conference finals because there's so much parity going on in the league today, then it is what it is. You can take that risk. But for me, I mean, money is money at the end of the day. It doesn't matter it doesn't really matter how much talent you have. If that contract says that you're worth this much, you can either be a headache for a team or you could be exactly what they're paying for. You could be a headache like Bradley Beal, who said something about the Phoenix trade, about it making sense money wise. Do I even want to go down that path though? Because honestly, both those players are a season and a half away from being castaways. I'm being so honest right now. So I don't know what that looks like. If I'm Philly though, you just ride with what you got at the end of the day, just to try and see if you can get a healthy run at it. But I don't know. That's crazy.
Yeah, Philly's in such a weird spot because it's like you have Max, you have McCain, you have the number 3 overall pick. You could start building in a different direction around 3 young pieces to try to start, doing something different. But I just don't know if Daryl Morey is going to do that. Now he's been somebody who's not afraid to make crazy trades, but I think moving the number 3, is that what it's come to now? Because I just don't know if I see the trade and you moving the number 3 and you clearly are going to be a contender unless it is KD or something like that. And even then, I don't know.
Right.
Yeah, man. It's a hard spot that they're in because they have to choose a side, and to me, their side is going to have Joel Embiid still on the team. I don't think they're going to trade him for at least the next 2 seasons at the very least, which means they're trying to win. There is the side where you think, okay, Paul George was hurt, Embiid was hurt, run it back, they'll be healthier, will be better. But there's also the side of where, like, hey, you generally have problems with your roster that you need to fix. If you don't trade the pick, what is the player that's going to best overall maximize both of our time? Like they have a lot of questions that they have to answer. And I just think trading Paul George's contract and really packaging that with your 3rd overall pick is only worth it if you get a player that can really move that needle. And I love Kevin Durant. I think he's a very good player. But what we've seen time and time again is when you put him with 2 other players, it gets shaky, especially when the roster around them still isn't great, and one of them is injury prone in a Joel Embiid. So now I have an aging KD plus Embiid who could both miss games when you need all 3 of them to really maximize the roster. It just doesn't really sound like a great winning thing. And then on top of it, if you wind up trading your best player 2, maybe 3 years after, then at that point you should have kept the 3rd overall pick if he was that good. Exactly. So it's like, yeah.
And like you said, you don't want to end up in a situation where it's Kevin Durant is what you're, because not to say that you don't want to put all your chips in on the table for Kevin Durant, but history has shown you in the last 6 years that that's just not the best thing that you can do. I mean, hell, if you couldn't maximize 25 games out of Devin Booker, Bradley Beal, and Kevin Durant. Throughout their first season together. I remember it was a struggle to just get them all on the court. That's been the same exact story each way. You can look at it the Harden and Kyrie way, the same exact way. They only played 17 games together, and you could say, Kevin Durant's foot or James Harden's hamstring or Kyrie's injury. There's too many what ifs to really give a damn at the end of the day. You didn't get it done, and you're in a boat where it just seems like every single season you're sinking left and right because you're trying to reach up and grasp the championship brass ring. And like I said a little bit earlier, there's so much parity in the league. Like it's almost like you're willing to take that risk because you just could be the team to luck out that year. But I mean, bro, at the end of the day, like Gifted said, how worth it is it going to be if you land a Kevin Durant and then you look at the bench and all you have is Andre Drummond and whatever else you can squeeze out, whatever else is left, if you even manage to keep Tyrese Maxey throughout all this hypothetical BS. Like it's insane. There's too much parity for me to look at them and say like you just don't do it or you don't do anything. But if you're Philadelphia, bro, like what else can you do? What else can you do until you get to a point where you say, all right, bro, Luka got traded. So that means that all bets are off. Joel, get the hell up out of here. Let's figure out what we can do to ship you off and continue to make sure that our future is somehow intact for the next 10 years. But yeah,
and I mean, how much of it too do you think plays into the part that Giannis could be out of Milwaukee, which could affect it a little bit. Boston's going to be weaker next season because of the Jason Tatum. We don't know what's going to happen with Jaylen Brown. I don't think they're going to move Jaylen Brown, but the knee injury, that could slow him down, right? You don't know what's going to happen there. So this could be where the East is maybe the more open than you initially thought it was going to be, because if Boston's down and we don't know what New York and Indiana are going to look like next year, maybe Philly looks at it and says, we can stay afloat if we make one move. Maybe. I don't believe it because I just don't trust Philly at all to be good. But hey, you never know.
Yeah. I mean, but that's where like the sense of urgency has to be high for the team, regardless of what they do, because as you said, the Eastern Conference is potentially losing two massive playoff threats in the Celtics and whatever people thought the Bucks would be, because at least you can make an outside argument. Okay, Giannis and Dame, maybe, even though I never really believed in that shit, you can try to argue that. But now that Giannis is potentially going to be playing on a team, or maybe he leaves, it's two clear teams that are on the outs. So now it's like, it's the Pacers, it's the Knicks, it's the Cavs. If they don't make any, I would say, change, like those are your main levels of competition. Obviously, if Detroit gets better somehow, they're probably up there too. Like there's questions, but that next season for the Eastern Conference has to be viewed as this is our window to get to the finals and make some magic happen. It's got to be that. And if that's not the goal, then trade Joel Embiid. I kind of feel that way.
Yeah.
We've talked about that even throughout the season, and that's the option. It feels like Daryl Morey isn't looking at it all. But then again, even if he was, who's going to trade for Joel Embiid right now with everything going on with Joel Embiid? Do you think anybody would?
Look, you never say never when it comes to what team wants to make themselves look more like a dumbass in the next 10 years by just throwing all their chips on the table at a superstar because they just feel like they need something. Look, the Brooklyn Nets, for example, I will never forget how in a matter of like 2 years, 2.5 years, it took them that long to really get their franchise back on track, to the point where they weren't looking down the line in 2029 at nothing in the draft lottery or draft assets wise. Like it took them a little bit to get back on track from the whole Kevin Durant, Kyrie, James Harden debacle, right? Even before that, the Danny Ainge fleece trade with Paul Pierce and Kevin Garnett. Like it took them a while to get back on track. And even back then, they looked at Kevin Garnett and Paul Pierce as game changers. And everybody else was like, what are y'all doing? Like, you just gave a future away to the Boston Celtics of all teams, and it worked out for them, right? So, Hayes, I would say somebody gonna make a decision like that. Somebody gonna say, "Give me Joel Embiid." Now, I'm not gonna say it's the best decision, or it may not be the best package, but it's the NBA, and it's the post 2020. I didn't see some crazier shit happen. But look, I'm with y'all on the part of Daryl Morey. It seems like isn't even really entertaining that option as much because, and personally, I think it's because he's looking at it like that's an all else that's a if all else
All
fails
those feels
type of
type move.
situation.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
So we'll see. But yeah,
I mean, I personally think all else has failed at this point in time. Like,
Yeah. Nah,
I'm just saying that
I get you, bro.
that you're very close to that point where you can say all else has failed you
Facts.
because, like,
Facts.
we'll see, man. We shall see what happens. But that's one team. The other team reportedly is the Milwaukee Bucks. We're supposed to sit down with Giannis Antetokounmpo. Reportedly that they have already started bringing in top 8 lottery picks in for workouts just in case, so that if they get a pick for Giannis, that they've already done their due diligence in the draft, which a lot of teams do regardless if they have draft lottery picks or not. It's not something that's completely out of what teams normally do in the NBA. But the Milwaukee Bucks, Giannis, does this thing can the Bucks ownership and the front office do enough to convince Giannis that it's still best for him to stay in Milwaukee, or is it just a matter of time before it's time for him to go?
All he
I'm gonna
got to
be
do
honest,
is
bro. Like,
go ahead.
I just don't look at Giannis as a player that is gonna leave. And I feel like all the logic says leave, this and that. I feel like Giannis will play out his contract and then leave, but not leave under contract. But as I've had this belief about Giannis, the one thing that makes me pause to say, actually, I could be wrong, is the fact that Dame tore his Achilles.
Mm-hmm.
Because at least the outside faith is, okay, if I have Dame, he's this, he's that, even though I think there's a lot of things that gets thrown under the rug with Dame. At the very least, you can try to trick yourself into saying, okay, off year, this and that, third year with Dame, we'll figure it out. The fact that he's going to be missing an entire year, I don't care who you trade for. Unequivocally, this is a wasted gap year for Giannis. So the Bucks have to find a way to sell Giannis on. This is the wasted year. You're going to do the best you can. We're not going to be able to like really compete. But that next year, though, we got X or Y lined up. These players are going to come off the books. Like, you have to find a way to sell him on that. And I think that's ultimately could be the reason why he leaves, because it's like, okay, in 2026, that's where all the best free agents are coming. We don't know how Dame is going to look tearing his Achilles at the age he was at, not to mention the blood clot he had before that. Like, there's just a lot of questions with that. So to me, like, his trade value on top of how much money Dame is making is also unrealistic to move for great value. So to me, it gets very spooky, man. Like, I want to say he's gone, but I feel like Giannis will be stubborn, play one more year out, and then realize I really can't do anything with this team. I gotta go, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think that's
I
probably
think
inevitable, man. Like, it's I mean, he's loyal to that franchise. He's loyal to the city of Milwaukee, and I understand that, right? Like, and they got a title, right? And that's the one thing that maybe they could sell their hang their hat on, is that they're willing to do whatever it takes to get them back to the spot. They traded Chris Middleton, who's been with that franchise for a while, and so maybe that proves to them that they are Giannis, they're willing to do whatever it takes. But I'll tell you this: after that failed Kuzma trade, if I'm Giannis, I'm looking at side eye at everybody in that goddamn front office, bro.
Look, man, that's what I was about to say, Hayes. Look, the moment he walk into the team facility and see Kyle Kuzma airball at the free throw with no one around him, he gonna look and be like, "What the hell we doing, bro?" Like, I get Chris Middleton was going through his injuries and all that, but when he was on, he looked like prime MJ. When he was off, he looked like Kyle Kuzma. Like, that's a problem. I don't know who gonna want to deal with that personally. Now, to get this point, I looked at this and I said, he's gone. I said he was gone the moment Dame tore his Achilles. Because to be honest, I started to immediately think about, look, if you were Giannis Antetokounmpo, and like Hayes said, he's loyal to a fault, but he's done everything that he possibly could for a small market franchise like Milwaukee to make them as relevant as possible, to even land them an opportunity to get Damian Lillard to prowl him out of the ashes of hell in Portland onto somewhat of a contender in the Eastern Conference, based on the fact that they just won the championship a few years back. And when you look at his record, like his accomplishments there. Let me make sure I got this right. Pull this up here. 9-time All-Star, champion, 8-time All-NBA, 5-time All-Defensive, 2-time MVP, Defensive Player of the Year. We know all that. Top 75, all that. Got the Nasus and extra extension a little bit in there. Like he's a people person. He's everything. If I'm Giannis, I'm looking at this the same way that I'm looking at how I was just looking at 2K on my career. All right, I did 3 seasons, right? I was averaging 69 points a game, and we won 3 championships and an MVP all the way through. And I said, I'm done. I'm gonna go join the fucking Timberwolves now. But me, in that little duration of time on my career, after pouring out everything impossible, even me, I'm saying, what else can I do? That's how I'm viewing Giannis looking at Milwaukee. Because not only did you sit back and you say, okay, they took the chance on not just you, but they took the chance on you and the duo, the dynamic duo between you and Bubbles, right? Chris Middleton. And then they give you Brook Lopez, they give you Drew Holiday. You work up a core there, you work up a chemistry there. You build that fan base up from the ground up, and you're able to win the big one. And then ever since then, right, in the last 2 years, Giannis doesn't even have 2 playoff wins on his record. That's a problem. So for me, I feel like if you're Giannis Antetokounmpo and you're looking at the collapse of this team from the ceiling that they broke through winning the championship, right? And the pieces that have fallen off the wagon since then. Drew Holiday, Chris Middleton, Brook Lopez has gotten older. Bobby Portis, I think, is the same age as Giannis. So when you look at that, and on top of Dame's injury and the fact that the Bucks don't have any young pieces that they're really worried about, like they're really catering to the way that they once catered to a young Giannis and a young Chris Middleton. If I'm Giannis, I'm thinking about all of this and I'm saying, damn, we don't got a window for a championship next year. Like you said, Gifted, that's a gap year, basically. I'm gonna be 31, right? I'm gonna be 31. Hayes, how many times have me and you sat here from the logo throughout the entire season and Gifted? And we're talking about the co-MVP race, but Giannis averaging 30 and 12 over here. And he's just doing that. Like
that's another thing. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? How is Giannis gonna sit there and say, well, damn, if next year gonna be a down year, can I average 33 and 15? Is it gonna be worth anything? Is it just gonna be like, what am I doing here? The Nasus just got clear from his injuries. He was out, I think, with an ACL. I didn't even know that. He probably throwing that nigga in negotiations just cause. Like he's got so much
they
leverage.
Negotiate together, bro. It's all when
like they got
for sure.
So much leverage right now. So much leverage just to sit back and like you said, he could play it 1 or 2 ways. The nobleness in him could say, I'm gonna ride the year out, you know what I'm saying, do my contractual obligations. Or the Jimmy Butler and him can be like, hey, look, my time it's time to go. It's time to go, bro. I need something before I end up cooking, before I end up pulling Andre Jackson, AJ Green, and a couple other custodians to come beat up Kyle Kuzma and the rest of his 4, because we ain't got nobody. We ain't got shit over here. But Doc Rivers and Darvin Ham's hands still in his pockets. Like they ain't got nothing. They really ain't got nothing for next season. So we'll see.
But that's why the championship matters so much to me, because that's a double-edged sword, right? That could be the reason why he stays, because he's won there. Or, hey, I won here. I have nothing tying me down. I have no like gigantic hurdle or thing to prove in Milwaukee. I've done that. It's time for a new chapter. I just think, regardless of what it is, the Dame Achilles thing has to factor into this heavily, because throwing away a gap year at his age, when we're already seeing, him in his own ways decline from what he once was, I just don't know if he's willing to risk another year of that. Yeah, I don't know.
Because what do you honestly? We just finished talking about Philadelphia and like what the hell they're even doing, but that's genuinely how I would feel with Giannis. Now, not to say that I think that he wouldn't like I couldn't see him just kind of going through that, right? Like I think back to when Anthony Davis was trying to get out of New Orleans and Boogie, they when the rumors started happening that he wanted to go out, what did New Orleans do? They went out and got Boogie Cousins. And Boogie Cousins was age 27 when he tore his Achilles, right?
Mm-hmm.
That was their big move, though. And Anthony and honestly, when you looked at the Pelicans, like from the onslaught of when he got there, it was a whole different offense. It was a whole different defense. Boogie was able to run at the 4 or the 5. They were able to switch them back and forth. Like it looked promising. And then that Achilles injury was like a knife to the gut for Anthony Davis, because that was the Pelicans' last attempt to be like, hey, like, you remember when we got you Rondo and Drew Holiday? We got you Boogie, but hey, he tore his Achilles. So what do you want us to do? And by then, the writing was already on the wall. AD, I want out. I'm sitting out. It is what it is. Y'all did what y'all could, but how much more can I do based off what, the situation that we're in? That's why I feel like Giannis is in right now.
I think that's 100% valid, and we'll see what I would say comes of it. But I think the other aspect that we haven't said yet is that another reason why it might not happen is because the teams that want to trade for Giannis, like, their GM is going to want everything. And it's like right now, before 2026, where all these great players come off the books and become like, I think it's less teams that are actually available to trade for Giannis and realistically still give him a chance to win this season.
Yeah.
Maybe next season that changes. Maybe that pool gets bigger next season. But I think that is another part, or I would say aspect, as to why it's unlikely that he'll be traded this offseason.
I can get with that.
Yeah, I mean, there's a chance. If I had to put a percentage, I'll say 20% chance he gets traded this offseason. I think a lot of this, there's a potential, a lot of movement can get kicked to the summer of 2026, where I think a lot of teams are setting themselves up financially to take on money. A lot of teams setting themselves up for things like that. So maybe that's where you look to do something like that. So we shall see.
Yeah.
We shall see. The other team, it's y'all, the Warriors. Reportedly, they do not want to move Draymond Green, that is not on the table. They want to keep the core of Draymond, Jimmy, and Steph together, but they are open to business. They do want to add something to the team. How you guys feeling?
So I want to say this. Like, I think people really are being doomer about this team, and I can understand why. But for me, like, I don't know if people like lived through the season the way I did. The way the team was absolutely dead for the water. They were not in the play-in before the Butler trade, and then they forced themselves into the playoffs. They beat that Houston team with the injured Butler, and then Steph in the first, like, I'm sick about it, right? Because for the first 13 minutes of game one versus the Wolves, Steph is frying everyone. He has 13 points in 13 minutes. He's producing, and then he gets hurt. So for me, like, I know people wanted Butler to take 35 shots. I had realistic expectations. I did not think that was going to happen. I think game 3, he performed at a high level. We were unable to win it, right? So how I view these things, I think that it matters the roster, like all the men you have next to these guys, because realistically, they did not show up in many different ways, and that's why we lost. So the changes they make with that, whatever they use Kuminga for, who's the last piece, that'll determine how successful we are.
Yeah, I agree. I will say this too. Obviously, Giannis and Golden State has always been a thought in my mind of intrigue, just based on how it would look, just based on a two-man action of Steph and Giannis, what that could potentially look like, what transition buckets could look like with Giannis barreling downhill and a bunch of shooters around him. I mean, real shooters. That's a thought that I've had. But I will say this too. Pumping the brakes on the whole Jimmy Butler thing, because some people, I think, were prisoners of the moment in that gifted. I think that they also forgot that Jimmy Butler could have very well been nursing his own injury that we saw him have in the first round. Like, that was something that kind of hit me like in the middle of game 5. I was like, Jimmy, I felt like you said, gifted. Game 3 was the one that we really needed based on his performance alone. And he went scoreless in the last 8. That's on Jimmy. But at the same time, I'm taking that with a grain of salt, because Steph looks great in 13 minutes, and then just boom, it's all over. Like, it's like the immediate, once I saw it was a hamstring, I was like, okay, this is different, like, playing field. Some people looked at Aaron Gordon and what he did on Sunday and was like, well, what about Steph Curry? I'm like, first of all, that's 2 different builds and 2 different ages. All right. What Aaron Gordon was able to do, we respect that, right? Like, I know Mad Dog Russo and all them old heads probably like, yeah, like, this is what Russell would have done and whatever. But at the end of the day, it still doesn't change the fact that there was only 3 Nuggets that had, well, 2 Nuggets that had over 15 points, one of which was Jokic, who had on 9 field goal attempts, which is insane. But in moments like that, like, you're looking at the team as a whole and you're wondering what, and people ripping Michael Porter Jr. too. show of hands, how many of y'all knew Michael Porter Jr. was on one arm this entire series? How many people knew that?
Well, yeah.
Thank you. So and let me just throw this question to y'all and maybe the chat as well. Like, did y'all take that into consideration? Just watching all the games, the whole 7-game series. Like, the way I'm looking at it is, if Michael Porter Jr. makes 2 threes in any of these games, it's a miracle. Genuinely, the fact that he's out there is, commendable. Some people may be like, stupid, you're a decoy, whatever. But like, I looked at that and I was like, okay, Michael Porter Jr., you get some grace from me. Jamal Murray had the flu, still managed to have a good game, and I think it was game 6, wasn't it? Or game 5, whatever it was. The point is that sometimes you may have all the pieces right there, but in a 7-game series, shit can go one or two ways, north or south, depending on the circumstances. And if you look at this Minnesota team, right, and for example, going into this matchup with the Oklahoma City Thunder, it's all about matchups. The Thunder just went through a grueling 7-game series while basically throwing every single magic trick they could from their deck, saving Alex Caruso's defensive performances against Nikola Jokic for game 7, right? In a series against Minnesota, like, I'm thinking about depth. I'm thinking about Julius Randle, how great he's been playing. If they're going to use that as a catalyst to kind of execute some other different defensive plan. Anthony Edwards is under, I think he's went under like 26 against them 4 out of 5 times in the last 6 matchups. So they have an answer for him. So the point that I'm trying to make is, in this postseason alone, we've seen a lot of instances where you can have all hands on deck, and that's not enough. Russell Westbrook, for example, started off the postseason so great, and then in that 7-game sample size against Oklahoma City, it took right around to like game 3 before they really started just leaving him open in the corner, sacrificing the double team to help out and force turnovers, leaving shooters wide open. Like, things can change like that. For the Warriors, and where they come into play with all this is this. I don't think it's a realistic situation. I think that they have pieces to get Giannis, but I don't think that they're going to throw everything to go get him and end up with nothing on as a bench unit. I don't think that they're going to do that. I also don't think that they're going to jump ship with Jimmy Butler, because, like Gifta said, from the moment that Jimmy Butler arrived in Golden State to the end of the season, statistically, it was no other team better than the Warriors besides the Thunder, statistically speaking, record-wise, offensively rating-wise, defensive rating-wise, rebound and all that stuff. They were that good. So for me, that's enough to say, all right, next season we'll let that shit kind of play out and see, would give them a whole offseason off. Let Steph come back. Steph's getting older. That's kind of scary. The only reason you make that move, in my opinion, is if you're looking at Steph Curry and you're saying, all right, we're starting to see Father Time creep up, and we need to we thought that bringing in Jimmy would help take the pressure off. Now we need to just, all right, we saw Giannis, what Giannis did to the Pacers through 5 games, we need to respect. Like, on any given night, Giannis was going to get his 30 and 15. The Pacers knew this too. They just knew no one else on that team was going to help them out. Not even Gary Trent Jr., a couple masterclass performances for him. It still wasn't enough. So that's the only way they make a trade like that, in my opinion, is if they looking at Steph or the group. I don't know what's going to happen with Kuminga. Steve Kerr be treating him like a deadbeat father. I don't understand, but we'll see what happens with that. I don't think that they make the move, but it is something to just kind of be intrigued by, to see what it would look like.
Yeah. Gifted.
Team fucking sucks, man. Make some changes, bro. Like, I'm sorry. B-Pos, you were dog shit. Like, you weren't even like a top 5 white in the playoffs, bro. Like I need to see.
You said top 5 white in the playoffs?
You weren't
even
even a top 5
said?
white. Yeah.
He was not a top 5 Caucasian.
I'm taking. Listen. Chet was better. Hardestein was better.
Yes.
TJ McConnell was better.
Damn. Yes.
Actually, I was gonna say Dante. Dante been some shit too. Hold on.
Dante been kind of iffy.
Ty Jerome was. He kind of sold that cat series though. I can't give him Ty Jerome. I'm not gonna lie. No. I'll be honest. How bad B-Bot. Like, he played 40 minutes in game 4 and was 1 for 10 in 40 minutes. Like, he was
Max Strus. Max Strus got to come in here too.
Max Strus. He was ass too.
He said.
Oh, Caruso. I did not say Caruso. So that's 4.
Yep,
That's 4.
yep.
I need one more white.
Peyton Pritchard. Kristaps
was hooping a little bit.
With an illness.
Peyton Pritchard was hooping a little bit.
How about
no? Luke Cornett. My last white. My last white right there. Yeah. So you weren't even a top 5 white. Like, what's up with you? So like, make the trades, bro. Please. I'm sorry. It's got to happen, bro.
Not lying though. He wasn't a top 5 white. Derek White was a top 5 white over Podziemski, and that's just because his last name. Shit is insane.
Crazy. That's
insane, bro.
Top 5 white is crazy.
But it's facts though. Am I lying? Chat. No. Chat. Was B-Pods a top 5 white in the 2025 playoffs? Lie if you want to.
And name your top 5 whites, please. Top 5 whites.
All right, so chat, listen. Man. The list is Luke Cornett, Chet Holmgren, Isaiah Hartenstein, TJ McConnell, Alex Caruso. Was he better than any of those 5 guys I just named, chat?
And if you can name another white.
Oh, I forgot. Technically, Al Hart's black, so I can't say Al Hart. I got to think of somebody else. Okay, hang on. Dante was ass. I don't know.
Luka?
Oh, Luka! Yeah, no, it's up. I forgot all about Luka. No, he's cooked. He's cooked. No.
That is hilarious, man.
It's done, bro. It's done.
All right. That is actually pretty damn funny. The only other thing to really talk about before we leave is the Boston Celtics. And while I don't think they're going to move Jaylen Brown, I know that's been some rumors and stuff talked about. I don't even want to entertain that because I don't think that they entertain that. But other things that are realistic, Al Horford's probably going to be gone in free agency. Drew Holiday, KCP, if they return everybody and just let Al Horford walk away, they're looking at a $500 million salary bill when you add in the luxury tax. Somebody got to go. Who do you guys think? Like, how much change do you think the Boston Celtics have this season?
We knew this was coming. I'm just going to say this. I told y'all before, the CBA, they said once they saw the Warriors go to, 5 straight NBA finals? Once they saw that, they said, we got to figure out a way to calm this shit down. Adam Silver wanted parity. I said it before. I said it earlier in the show. This is the most parity I've seen in a while. We are about to have the 7th different champion for the first time in NBA history. But somebody in the chat earlier, who I think may or may not have gotten kicked, had said that there wasn't a lot of parity and that was a stupid narrative, even though this is the first time this is ever going to happen. But it is what it is. The CBA and the second tax apron is not just being a pain in the ass for the Boston Celtics. Another team that's in this mix is the aforementioned Phoenix Suns and also the Cleveland Cavaliers, because Evan Mobley's his contract's about to kick in. He was making rookie money this year. His contract about to kick in next year, and then they're gonna be looking in 2 years' time like shit. You better hope they make it to the conference finals. Lord have mercy. Now back to the Celtics. Somebody got to go. Somebody's have got to go. It's about to be multiple people. It could be Al Horford. Definitely, I think his genuinely, I think his tenure is done. The fact that Big Al got a championship, if he wanted to hang it up tomorrow, we with you, big dog. You got your championship. You know what I'm saying? He good to go, I feel like. As for Drew Holiday, Kristaps Porzingis, this is going to be like Gifted just said with a gap year. This is a gap year for Jason Tatum. So, Gifted, you good?
I'm sorry to bother y'all. I just realized something. I got to take Luke Cornett off the list. I forgot all about Zubac.
Okay.
My fault.
Zubac is
complete disrespect. Yeah.
All right, you got it. Yeah. So, but yeah, I think Boston is screwed in the sense of their championship window. I think their last championship window was this year. I think that this year was kind of if they could go back to back, then it would all be worthwhile. But even in retrospect, they're going to look back on it and say they put their chips in on the table and we're still able to win a championship. So they're good in that regard. Honestly, Tatum being out for the majority of next year, if the Celtics wanted to, I'm not going to, for lack of a better word, but tank. I mean, Jaylen Brown could really take the extra needed time to make sure that knee's right by the time Tatum comes back, because the whole makeup of the team is going to be different. They're going to still be able to keep, I think, Derek White and maybe Peyton Pritchard in that mix, but there's going to be a rotating body of players that we're probably going to see in the next couple of years. And as long as they're able to shoot, I guess Joe Mazzulla going to give them the green light, but it may not hit the same. It may not hit the same. I don't know.
We shall see, man. I think that the Celtics needs to be a take your medicine year for the Celtics. I would say, listen, Jason Tatum, take as much time as you need. Jaylen Brown, if you need that surgery, go ahead and get it because they got their own first round pick. And I think that as much as they need to reset the debt financially, that may mean you're gonna have to reset with some talent as well. And I tell you what, I don't think the Boston Celtics is gonna be bad enough to be a bottom 10 team in the league or anything like that. But like maximizing what that first round pick can be in 2026, I think that's gonna be an important thing there.
Yep, that's true.
So
yeah, that'll be very, very. I don't know what Boston does, man, because I said this for years. They should trade Jaylen Brown, and I was saying this mainly because of like the contracts that they have. Like, I just think internally, when you have two players making supermax money,
$300 million,
the gap for you to feel the good competitor. That's why I think Boston deserves way more credit for somehow getting Porzingis and Derek White and all these other guys in there at the right time with Jrue Holiday, right? Like that was such a perfect storm considering the money that you were trying to put down on the team. Now that's getting blown up. We don't know exactly who is going to be traded, but the value that you'll get back for KP or Jrue Holiday, I can't think it's great, right? I mean,
yeah.
I don't know. We saw KP like go through it health-wise again. We saw Jrue Holiday just be like an older player who also had his own things going down this season. So it'll be interesting. I want to see if Boston tries to bottom out in the non-Tatum year to basically get like a high draft pick and then come back the next year fully blazing. I don't know.
And that would be some Boston shit too. Like,
you
know what I'm saying? Like they bottom out and they end up striking gold and landing some either key rotational piece or big name somehow. Like that would be the way. But I agree with both of y'all. Hayes, like you said, Tatum take all the time that you need. An Achilles injury at 27 is not nothing to play with, especially in terms of like you don't want to rush anything to get back because ain't nothing you coming back to. Shit. The Eastern Conference is still kind of up for grabs. Depending on who the Pacers or the Knicks are going to represent the conference. And, you're just going to have to kind of watch and see other teams kind of have their little moment and then hope that you can structure the team around to at least be decent enough to contend or compete still at a high level by the time Tatum gets back, hopefully.
Yeah, and I think even that by maximizing the value of the pick, like, and again, not saying tank, that's not what we're saying here. It's a little different, but like, I think even if you don't draft, that opens up a trade chip for you to where you could trade it, and you can get something back. So, like, I think that's what Boston. That's the best path forward for them, in my opinion. Like Tatum's going to miss the entire year, basically the entire season. There's no need to rush him back. Even takes time. Even then, it takes time to fully be yourself after Achilles injury and things like that. Jaylen Brown with his knee, let that rest up. Do whatever he needs to do to take care of that. Because if you play this right, like you still have years and years of contention left ahead of you. And this could be a chance to extend that a little bit. So.
Yep.
100% on that.
We shall see. Anything else, fellas, before we get up out of here, man?
Hoops are on the way, man. I'm excited. Also, shout out to my East Coast Demons. We are up. These games are not starting at 10:30, 10 o'clock. I don't gotta be up to 1 a.m. No, we getting 8 o'clock start times, 8:30 start times. We are up. Shout out to the East Coast, man.
That's facts. I will.
Gotta love it when it gets to this point because you can watch basketball, watch every game every day, and like you said, not be up
calm
to 1:30 and 2 o'clock in the morning. I do locked on NBA game night after every game, and like, bro, those days where it was a 10:30 start time, I wanted to punch somebody, bro. Like we weren't done recording till like 2:45 in the morning.
Yeah, bro, that's tough, man. Super tough.
Yeah. By the way, West Coast, y'all down. Joey Badass killing y'all. By the way.
Oh God.
Yeah. So I haven't heard not one track yet, Hayes. I want to wait, and they kept dropping tracks. So I'm a hear them all. All I can say is I'm a big Joey Badass fan. He can rap. Yeah. You got to be careful with Joey Badass. So I'm not surprised to hear people saying he's beating her ass right now. He's a good rapper. He's a really good rapper.
Bro, and the thing that I love about it too, and this is not to compare them as artists by any stretch of the imagination, but Joey is handling the 20v1 way better than Drake did. To whereas Drake seemed very unfocused. Like Joey's moving through these diss tracks, and he's giving a little jab, but it's not throwing away from the overarching target that he has here. Joey, bro pulled out Loaded Lux on a track on a feature. It's crazy, bro.
Yeah, that's crazy, bro. But this is what a 20v1 actually looks like, though.
Yeah,
like
Oh, yeah, 'cause they
multiple
kicking his
West
ass,
Coast.
bro.
They're
kicking his
literally
ass.
dropping records. Yeah. Amen.
So
Tough. It'll be fun to see.
yeah, listen. Rayvon got something for him, though, I believe, bro. He's been the one that's really surprised me this so far, man. But we'll see how it goes. But that is our time for today, guys. Make sure you guys enjoy basketball. We got the Western Conference Finals starting today. Shout out to ZZ. Shout out for Gifted coming through. At some point, Bama will be back. Has anybody seen Bama?
Last time I saw him, he was I'm not even gonna say what I saw him
Off a
doing,
honey
'cause-
pack? That's always
yeah.
what Bama's doing.
Yeah,
So,
something weird.
Not the honey pack, man.
we appreciate y'all for tuning in, man. We'll see y'all lovely, beautiful people on next week. We'll see y'all on Tuesday, man. Peace, y'all.
Peace, y'all.
Peace out, people. Have a good one.